The worst thing you could do as a sales rep is cope, because when you're coping, it means you're not taking ownership and responsibility for your results. And if you are not doing that for yourself, it's going to be impossible to hold the prospect to the same exact standard that you are not holding yourself to. And the most common way that sales guys cope, and girls, and I'm sure if you're listening to this, you may be guilty of it, is I didn't want to burn the lead. And so that's why I didn't push hard. I'm going to tell you why this shit is cope. Okay? This is a story that you are telling yourself to make up for a shitty call, to make up for a shitty, mediocre performance on your call. And the reason that you are now not pushing is because you don't want to lose the sale. You don't want to burn the lead. If someone is a bullshitter, okay, and they've been making excuses, they gave you signs that they've been making excuses and they've been bullshitting the entire call. And you accepted it and you allowed it. And you continued to go on, you continued to move forward and didn't hold them to a high standard for one of two reasons. One is you were afraid to have the tense conversation with them and you were afraid to hold them to a standard above where they're showing up. Number two, which is most likely what's happening, is like I said earlier, you are not holding yourself to a high standard. These are excuses you give yourself. So outside of the tactical stuff of, okay, well, what do I say? How do I handle it? You're not holding yourself to a standard, so the words aren't coming to you. Example, you are selling something to teach someone how to make more money. You ask them what they've done to make more money or what they've done to get mentorship to make more money, and they say, well, I haven't done anything because I didn't have the money. You're going to keep going because that's what you tell yourself. Because you're probably sitting here right now, and the reason you haven't, it doesn't even have to be with me, but the reason you haven't gotten sales training is because you're telling yourself, well, let me get a couple more commission checks. At the same skill set that I'm at, let me go get more commission checks, and then I'll invest into the training. You can't help someone overcome, if you're dealing with someone who is struggling with the symptom of their problem, rather than the actual problem. In that case, they're focused on the symptom, which is the fact that they are broke and they make no money, rather than the problem is that they don't have the skill set to make more money. It starts with you, because this is the exact story you're telling yourself. And so again, they're going to give you signs throughout the entire call that they're bullshitting, and you're going to breeze past those signs and you're not going to hold them to a high standard that you don't hold yourself to. And so then we're at the end of the call. They don't want to move forward for one reason or another. You're afraid to stay in that pocket. You're afraid to challenge them, to hold them to a high standard, because you know that you holding them to a high standard is incongruent because you're not holding yourself to that standard. The fundamental thing that you need to understand outside of what I said about your standards is that you are there to lead the call. You are there to lead the prospect. And the first part of leading the call and leading the prospect is understanding that fundamentally they have a flawed decision-making process around the thing that you sell. Money, right? They have a flawed decision-making process around money. That's why they're in front of you. That's why they are there learning how to make more money. Whether it be, let's say you're selling leads. They have a flawed decision-making process when it comes to getting more leads for their business. Let's say you're selling fitness. They have a flawed decision-making process around food. That's why they're fucking fat. And so you not pushing them earlier in the call and at the end of the call to not lose the sale, to not burn the lead is your cope. And you're fucking doing them a disservice in the first place, because then they're going to continue following that same decision-making process that's gotten them to having inconsistent income in their business, that's gotten them to not having the time freedom, that's gotten them to being fat. They're going to follow that same decision-making process to now make the decisions moving forward. And what are they going to get most likely? More of the same. And that is where you come into play, to show them that they've been fucking up, to lead the call. So how do you do it tactically? Guys, I have videos throughout my entire channel of how you do it tactically. Watch one of the call breakdowns that I have and you'll see how to do it tactically. But understand this. None of that is going to land if you are giving yourself the exact same excuses. So as you're watching my stuff, as you're watching the other sales stuff, ask yourself, are these excuses that I'm giving myself? Especially if you're going and trying the shit that I'm showing on my videos and it's not working, it's because the weight isn't there in the delivery. And the weight in the delivery is not going to be there if you're not congruent. people feel that. So if they say they didn't do anything because they didn't have the money in the discovery, challenge that. They say they didn't have the time, challenge that. You challenging them, it can't be this foreign concept that they've never seen, that they've never heard of, they haven't been challenged from you, and then you're trying to challenge them at the end. That's nigga math. It makes no sense. So I say all this to say that your objections are a direct reflection of yourself, and they're a direct reflection of your standards, your beliefs, your relationship with time, your relationship with money. So if you're finding yourself consistently getting the same objection over and over again, look in the mirror, ask yourself, where am I giving myself this objection? Go handle that shit internally, and then watch the conviction that you have when it's time to handle it with that person. Like when I was making $3,000 a month and my rent was $1,600 and my lady was living with me and I was the only income and I invested $16,000 that I did not fucking have into sales training, it's because I didn't let money be the problem. I saw money as the symptom. I knew that my skill set was the problem. And so I got resourceful. I invested into getting the training and I 7x'd my income that year. And more importantly than that, the level of conviction that I had going into calls before even learning anything new. As soon as I made that investment into myself and I started going into calls, I was already showing up different, because this person giving me a money objection or this person saying they haven't invested because they didn't have the money, I didn't believe that shit. I knew that it wasn't a matter of not having the money, it was a matter of not being resourceful. So I've probably said this a million times in this video. I don't want to beat a dead horse, but look deeply at, first of all, the objections that you're getting. Ask yourself, where are you giving those objections? You're probably saying you need to think about some shit right now. See where you're giving those same exact objections, handle them within yourself, and then that conviction is what's going to transfer into your calls. So I'm done yelling at you guys. As always, like, comment, subscribe if you want to work closely with me. Link is in the bio. See if you qualify. I work pretty closely with everyone. And yeah, I don't have much more to say on the outro besides raise your standards. So I'll see you in the next one. Love you guys. Peace.